And good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining into Cape Breton Originals special edition today. It's a special edition because we have Charles and Sampson and Russ Green here from the Nova Scotia Equalization for Fairness today with us. And they've got a couple of issues to bring to our attention regarding some politicians, promises that were made prior to the election, and then what happened after the officials were in office and how they treated the Nova Scotia Equalization Fairness guys and their team. So before we get any further, I'd like to introduce Marie St. John, Charles Sampson, and Russ Green, and they're from the Nova Scotia Equalization for Fairness. So go ahead, Marie. I'll leave it up to you guys now.
Hi there, guys. We're just hoping Charles is still connected. We may not be able to get a picture of him, but as long as he can respond to us, hopefully answer any questions that may come up. So today, the point of us all really getting together today is it's a little tiresome, all of this back and forth emailing and everybody wondering what the other side is saying. And it seems there's a lot of discrepancy, you know, from one politician to the next. It seems to me like I've definitely been very impressed with a certain one, Kendra Coombs. She's come on there a few times, gone to bat for us, trying to speak of the NSCF and basically, you know, what you guys have been fighting for. So I'm hoping, Russ, since Charles will probably be able to connect at some point, we're hoping.
Having some Eastlink internet issues. Eastlink, pull up your friggin' internet socks, for God's sake. So we're going to have Charles is going to be in and out, hopefully more in than out. But in the meantime, we do have Russ. So go ahead, guys.
Yes. So, yeah, Russ, I just want, maybe you just want to maybe give them some background on what has been going on for you guys over the last, especially since, I guess, the new politicians have come in, let's say. Because they've definitely, you know, gave a lot of promises to all of us about going to fight for our equalization. And we seem to be getting a runaround still. So I'll let you.
So, yeah, tell us what took place, what you expected out of them, and what actually happened so far.
Well, what really normally happens around here now is that, you know, come election time, politicians will use us because there's so many people who, you know, are interested in equalization now. So they'll use us to get elected. They'll use us to show they're interested in our fight or in what we're fighting for. But the minute they get elected, they just ignore us. And that at that point, they don't talk to anyone. They don't respond to an email. They don't answer an email. Mike Kellaway said he was going to do 3 things, and I have a video of him. You've all seen it on our page. That he's going to get the province to the table and the feds and us, and we're going to sit down and have meaningful dialogue about it. That's never happened. Not going to happen. He's not going to be able to arrange that. The politicians don't want to talk about this, and that's the issue with equalization. When we have a 16-year-old board member, Jessica McDonald, puts it very simple terms. I don't know if either one of you seen that video, but
no, not yet.
Well, she gets on a board and she, you know, Father Maroon asked her how much money the province gets, and it's $2.34 billion she put there. And anyway, he asked her a few questions, and at the end result, CBRM benefited to the negative $3.6 million that year. So how is the province getting $2.4 billion to help us, and CBRM benefits to the negative 2.6 million that year, because we got like 15 million, but we paid back 18 something. So this is what's going on down here. And then we have politicians who we know may want to get involved with this, but they can't. And the reason why they can't is because their party leaders tell them not to. They tell them to ignore it, to ignore the situation. You have to remember, every political party is guilty of this manipulation.
Yes, they are.
They've all been in power. They've all, so they have a divine interest in protecting each other against any of the backlash for this. It goes to court, or if they're ever, they've all done it. They keep Cape Breton and rural Nova Scotia in a state of decline so that money grows every year. They got their hand out to Ottawa, you know?
It grows to a certain elite few, though, Russ, is what we're finding here, is it's just
sure.
And it just benefits projects they're interested in and nothing further. It helps them with their yachts, you know, getting marinas. We've seen very few things that actually help the community or the island in general, as far as that goes.
Well, I guess we've kind of identified that the bureaucrats behind the scenes, you know, the people like 20 and 30 years deep rooted in municipal affairs let's say, they're trying to do things to benefit the people who they support, and they're not empowered, they're not elected. The thing is that the politicians come and go. We've seen now new finance minister, new municipal minister of affairs, education, health. These new ministers don't know anything about this. They don't know anything about this. And by the time they learn it, they'll be gone and a new minister will be there. And this is what's been going on for 30 years in Cape Breton, keeping our politicians in the dark about what they're doing with this. The simple fact about this whole equalization is, Janet and Marie, is that Cape Breton and rural Nova Scotia generates the transfer. Halifax on its own doesn't qualify for equalization.
Right.
I.e., and this has been confirmed by Ottawa, if the province consisted of an economy like Halifax, Nova Scotia is a have province. We wouldn't get equalization. Cape Breton is what provides it. If we generate it and they keep it from us, it just continues to grow year after year after year. Yeah. I mean, we saw that. You got. I don't know how long you've been around watching us, but we put a posting out about 4 years ago with Karen Casey saying the province, had a $230 million surplus that year. That's exactly what we're supposed to be getting down here.
Isn't that something? Hey, how that math works out?
Oh, just exactly. And they have it. And she said right in the article that it came from equalization, and they were going to spend 110 million of it on the convention center in Halifax, and they were going to spend the other remaining on a waterfront museum. Wow. Now, so if there's a surplus, while we have some of the highest property tax and commercial tax rates in the country, half of what they pay up there, and that money's sent so that doesn't happen, and then they take our face and rub it right into it in the paper that they're going to spend this surplus on luxury items in Halifax. They're not supposed to touch it.
Yeah, so, they must be laughing behind our backs over there.
Sure,
it infuriates me.
I don't
Cape Breton is a laughing stock, really it is.
Can't we have so John Morgan tried to take them to court and he failed because I feel that the judges and everything were stacked against him. And before he even went to court, that the case was probably already decided, never going to happen.
Was never going to get to court. It was never going to get before a judge. Right. The biggest thing our government has to do now, and what they've been doing, is to keeping this away from a judge. Because if a judge is going to sit down and look at the fact that they received this money for us and they spend it on Halifax and it's all there on paper,
stadium.
They're in trouble. They're breaking the Constitution. It says in the Canadian Constitution, Section 36(2), why equalization is provided to the receiving provinces. It's to equalize a standard of living in Canada.
Yes.
Now, here we are in Cape Breton with 87% higher property taxes in CBRM than they pay in Halifax. So, we've heard horror stories of people building a little duplex on a slab with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and getting an $8,000 tax bill here. When we tell people in Halifax that, they're flabbergasted. They're like, what? I have a big mansion on Yonge Avenue and I pay $3,000 a year. Yes. Why are you paying, so they know Rick Howe and Todd Vino, and we've discussed it on their shows with them. I personally discussed it on their shows with them. And the readers are like, what? They don't even know. People in Halifax don't know this is going on. But our politicians, and that's what you're focusing on today's show, our politicians here, they're listening to their party leaders. And there's Charles. He's in.
Hey, Charles.
Hi. That's great. He got in. So, I wanted Charles, and you know what? There was a little bit of a backstory here with Marie. She challenged. Oh, Charles left again, did he? Oh, there he comes again. We challenged Brian Comer because he wasn't responding, or he didn't respond to emails that we had sent, and Marie went after him on that, and she helped with that, and it was phenomenal. She put it right to him, and he was afraid not to.
It was really just simple. It amazed me. He did answer me very quickly. Like, it literally was within that day, and I was so impressed with him. I really was. I got to tell you, I was. This Brian Comer, he's showing up at all of the places Janet and I have been. We were really amazed. And then you tell me, wait a minute, what is he talking about? We've been sending him emails. We've been trying to speak to him. So when I asked him, then he ended up sending back a letter again, right? Trying to explain that. I know I have my copy in front of me, but I'll let you guys go ahead. And
I don't know if Charles has his, but Charles answered him. And you could tell by the questions that Charles had answered, asked of Brian Comer, We know that Brian Comer's in a bad spot. We know that he was a nurse before he was elected as an MLA,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he was.
He's a very educated,
very
man.
educated man. Whatever. He's given up his nursing degree. You have to maintain so many hours as an RN in order to keep your license. Now he's away from that now because he's a politician. He has the most to lose of anyone here. Really, he does. He has a young family, young kids. He has a lot to lose.
And as we know, politics are fickle, especially here in Cape Breton, because if you're on the wrong team,
that's okay, Janet. Let's let him learn it as for what it is as he goes. That's great.
Yeah.
But he needs to stand up to Tim Houston and tell Tim Houston that we elect him and we pay him, and he's going to represent us because Kendra Coombs can do it.
Yes, she can.
Yes.
Why aren't the Liberal MLAs doing it? Why isn't Derek Mummercat doing it? Why isn't why isn't Brian Comer allowed to do it? Murray Ryan won't even talk to us. Never once has never talked to us, answered an email.
Yeah.
And that's not great. So people live on the north side. They should contact him. What's wrong? Why won't you talk about this? Why can't they just and hear what we have to say? We don't even care if they open their mouth. We'll give them that opportunity. They don't have to even open their mouth. Sit in front of us, listen to what we have to say, and then go and investigate it and maybe make a comment on it later on.
Can I ask about that particular part about the contextual clarity that he's referring to when he speaks of only wanting reputable media, accredited media? I wonder about that. What exactly does that mean, and why is this? Like, why can't I just tape him? Does he think I'm going to dub over his voice? Does he think
you know what they're all afraid? You know what they're all afraid of? They're all afraid that they're going to be in the same boat as Mike Kellaway. Mike Kellaway stood on a stage and made a promise to the voters. Up went the camera. We got a video of it. We put it online. Here's what Mike Kellaway said. Now, what can Mike Kellaway do? The government in Ontario and in Ottawa is telling him to ignore it. Ignore that issue. Our party down there needs to look after the big 1%ers and the big business people in this province. They need to look after them with our money. And so they're told to ignore it. Now, he's between a rock and a hard place. Do you think any other politician in Cape Breton wants to be in the same boat? They don't.
I understand that, I guess, in that way.
If politics are comfortable, then you're not doing your job, okay? Politics are not comfortable, and you're going to come into situations where you're going to be unfavored by the 1%ers, but you've got the 99% behind you, us, the little people, the ones that put you in there, and they need to remember that. We need to remind them. That's our job.
That's our job.
On them like and let them be reminded how they got to where they're at.
This issue has been going on for so long,
50 plus years.
And they have gotten away with keeping the public in the dark on this issue.
By ignoring it.
Nova Scotia alone, there's approximately $50 billion has come into the province, but there's no accountability, no ability for the public. And if you look on the federal site, they say this money is provided unconditionally. There's nothing in the Constitution that allows for that, or we've tried time and time again to get even the Attorney General of Canada, Lemaitre, and so on. I even used his oath of office against him, and he still would not tell me, as the legal body for the government, are they abiding by the Constitution?
Wow.
And they won't answer it.
None of their department can provide you with it either. So this has been going on. Now, the only thing that I can think of is this unconditional transfer, no conditions on it, yet the Constitution reads something.
Yes, I've been looking this up it's also Wikipedia, guys. Anybody can look this up in Google. This isn't like, it's some closed thing that's going on. This is here. This is here for everybody to read. And if I can read it, then all of you guys can read it. So everybody should be doing this and stop getting mad and saying we aren't deserving of it. We shouldn't be relying on it, is what they keep telling us.
There's five.
It wouldn't exist without us.
There's 5 categories in the formula. 5 categories that they fund, and it's all dealing with the area's inability to raise sufficient revenue to provide for reasonably comparable public services at reasonable comparable rates of taxation. That's not occurring. Now, the one we're focusing on right at the moment, and what Kendra has focused on, is the one category that relates to your fiscal capacity deficiency related to property. Property is a municipal tax source. That's the one we're focusing on. That one is that fluctuates. When I first got it off to Maureen McDonald when she was in government, it was 26.8% of the total transfer. It has changed to 23.1 for 18-19, and now it's 23.7 for 2019-20. So it fluctuates, but it's over 20% consistently of the total transfer. Now we're talking about $2.315 billion for next year. It's a 3-year moving average. So to have the completely accurate number, you're gonna have to wait, because the last one is 23.7. It's a couple of years back, but it's significantly up in that high area of a high 20% of the total transfer. That's the money that should go to the municipalities. That's where it's being generated from. You've got 5 towns they've dissolved them. There's a number of others that are struggling financially. Not too long ago, Quebec was in it, Port Hawkesbury, there's Stellarton, there's all of these municipal units struggling to survive because they're underfunded. And I said to I said to Brian, I said, look, why don't you go back and read The Question of Balance? It's a 2005 report done by 3 university professors, 2 economists, and a political scientist, and read that. And their conclusion at the time, and Dexter, when he was premier, along with Corbett, they went after him in 2005, an oral question period, to hammer him.
Yep.
Then when they got in, they completely forgot about it.
They ignored it.
Well, it's something, isn't it?
They're only funding municipalities about 40%. I think it says 37. It's a while since I read it, but approximately 40% of their expenditures in the municipal units. And that's gone down because they use a grant system, the province. They used to call it equalization because, and then when we came on, even the data they used to put on their site, they changed that as well because we were using it. And they were getting embarrassed by us using their figures. See, what people have to realize, all of the figures that we're using is theirs. They can't defend it. That's why the government, that's why the courts, I say the courts were told, don't allow this to get any further than what you call the pleading stage. So
people don't want to believe that, Charles. They don't believe that happens. I mean, I don't know why they don't.
Well, government
on news anywhere.
Government appoints our judges.
Exactly.
Think about it. In the states, they elect them. The government appoints our judges here to the Supreme Courts. If I appoint, Jan McDermott, and she's a Supreme Court judge, and I don't want her to let equalization go, she's not going to let it go. She's got her job from me. This is a problem in this country. I want to simplify what Charles just said. Just for your people. 5 categories make up the equalization payment. The NSCF is only fighting for one of them. That's the 23.7% right now. The 5 categories make up the $2.3 billion. The government of Nova Scotia takes $30 million total out of $2.3 billion. If you do the math and write it down and look at the difference that's left over, it's astronomical. They take 30 million out. We get half of it, 15, and the rest of the province gets the other half. That 30 million they take out should be the tune of 500 and some million. Ottawa is sending 500 and some million in that 2.3 billion to address what they think 30 million is going to do. All the $30 million does is keep us poor. And as long as we're kept poor, next year that grows, because every year it goes up and up and up because our situations get worse and worse. We have the highest unemployment rate in Canada. We pay the highest commercial tax rates in Canada. We pay the second highest residential commercial property tax rates in Canada.
We have the
We have
highest
poverty
rate.
galore. We have huge unemployment, 20-30% unemployment here. This is what generates this money. So you can understand by keeping us poor, because I do want to talk, and I know that you both want to say something. I want to talk a little bit about Cape Breton Island Autonomy Group as well, because I know you both watch that. But I want to talk about that because Mark talked about back in the 70s, BC went through this exact problem. They went through the exact problem that Cape Breton Nova Scotia is going through. They were focusing the whole province's resources in the 70s to build Vancouver into a super city. And everyone else was starving and dying in the province. And when they had enough, they formed a regional government so that the provincial government cannot dictate to what has to happen. Right now, in this province, a municipality has no power. The provincial government is like a parent over a municipality. It's the children of the province, they refer to it as. They can tell us what to do. They can take money from us. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't sue them, nothing. When they had us forced into a forced amalgamation, we gave up our charters. Our city of Sydney, we gave up our charters. We had a right then to fight with them. We don't anymore. So they positioned us so that we would be in a position of a defenseless position so that we couldn't fight what they were going to do to us. So regional government is very important. And the Cape Breton Island Autonomy Group, they need to have a plebiscite in place. They need to have all that stuff go. Well, our provincial election is around the corner. And then after that's going to be another 4 years. Yeah. We can't wait another 4 years to get a plebiscite on that ballot.
I'm afraid for us
on that ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just afraid for what's going to happen in the next election. I am. I mean, when you look at we're so varying on this island. It's really a problem. It seems to me like I have many different friends of all different walks of life, and I'm going to tell you, it's something. It doesn't seem like we can come to an agreement sometimes on anything except
keeping us divided
that we are owed.
I think it could also come from, again, you talked about appointed officials versus elected officials.
Yep.
What makes up our administration in CBRM? How many of those actually put in a job where there was competition for their jobs? How many of them were handed those jobs by former mayors? There's just too many of them sitting inside of that administration that actually make up all of the rules that the council and mayor have to follow. Is still being generated by people who were appointed and not elected. And that needs to change as well, because we all can't be on one autonomous vision for Cape Breton to fight for everything that we're due if there's people that are lingering from the main Halifax administration, which we know Cecil was a part of, which we know they were all connected to. And until we rip that apart, we're never going to go anywhere. We have to start at the center, which is our administration in that CBRM, in my opinion, and they have to get on board, and we have to all be of the one same mindset to get Cape Breton out of this rut we're in, a 50-year rut that they've created.
It's important that we're kept in the rut. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, well, on that, the CBRM Council has been somewhat remiss in speaking out themselves as a solid unit and going after this particular issue. Yes. They're always talking about the fact that they're struggling financially. This money is supposed to go to the municipalities, but they're getting too much of the political party system that interferes at the municipal level. They are reluctant to attack the party that they support, or maybe they have aspirations, maybe at some future time, to run provincially. So there is that kind of. We met with them on February 23rd. We left them with our presentation, but it was the request to go after the government for the questions we've been trying to get them to answer, which connects with the constitutionality of the unconditional transfer, things of that nature. Where is this money going? And see, they're the level of government that's mostly impacted by the fact of this underfunding.
Yeah.
If we're having municipalities outside of the HRM dissolving, and there's going to be more if things do not change. The funding, if it's not going outside the HRM to keep them solvent, where's it going? The visual observation, if you go to Halifax, and drive through Halifax and then drive in the rural areas, it's going to become quite clear. You don't have to be any scholar or anything to know that this bloody money is not going where it's intended to go. Now, if you keep the outside areas underdeveloped, you continue to draw the equalization. And,
Yes.
and they go, and it's being spent to prop up the capital region.
And I find not to cut you off, Charles, but with that, when they do make all these other regions look worse, they tap into federal grant money, and they have all these other little offsides organizations, like we'll go ACOA or we'll go with ECBC or these other ones that just hauled the money in, and all they did was just personally use it as their piggy banks and not help the communities the money was. So, I mean, even with the equalization, even with government grants, they always find a way to make sure we are always without it, and they go with.
Janet, I want to jump in and I want to just add to your comment there, because you said something there. In 1992, in this province, they privatized Nova Scotia Power. It was a Crown corporation before that. Then in 92, they privatized it and made it a private for-profit corporation. A lot of people who were in government at the time became shareholders in the new company. Okay, but they voted
interest.
They voted. Well, we're looking into it. We can't. We're trying to. But they all use numbered companies. But we have people looking into it now. We're trying to find out.
Yes, we've been finding out about these numbered companies. There seems to be a long series of numbers, no name.
Right. So when you have people who are in a position in government to make decisions for a private for-profit corporation, there's a problem. We here in CBRM have been told that we have 67 to 70% of Nova Scotia Power's assets. Now, just think about it. The Lingan generating plant, Pinacony generating plant, the coal pier transfer station down at the harbor front with the trains and the belts and the conveyor belts, that we have the transfer station. We have the Muskrat Falls infrastructure project. We have the transfer station at the top of Morley Road, billions spent up there. They were supposed to have like what, $4 or $5 billion in assets, and we don't get one red penny in taxes from them.
How is that? I can't wrap my mind around that. Who should be sending them a bill? Because they are owed. We are owed a huge bill.
We're still responsible to fix those roadways to it and such, though. That's the problem.
Sewer,
we get nothing for it, but then also have a bill for fixing
the
yes, you're absolutely right. Around it.
We have to do water, sewer, sanding, plowing. We have to pay that out of our municipality taxes, while they don't pay any taxes here. Now, they do pay what they call a grant in lieu, and it's a pittance of a low amount.
But that doesn't really help us.
It doesn't. They give us that back and call it equalization, so they get to keep all of our money.
Well, actually, if you look at it, with that grant in lieu of taxes, they take from that apparently and put it into the 30 million to make up the 30 million. In essence, we're subsidizing the little bit we get.
We subsidize the money we get. But if we were to take Nova Scotia Power's assets at our current tax rate here, and at their value, you're talking $100 million a year. So decisions are made, Marie, to keep us poor in our government so that the money continues to flow to help us. Halifax is the most dependent city on government money that ever existed. They look at us like we're parasites with our hands out. They're the city that's dependent on government money. The federal, the everything up there is federally funded and provincially funded. It's all government, is all centralized. They're the ones that have their hand out to the government, not the rest of rural Nova Scotia. But they paint it the other way around.
We can't afford them anymore.
No, we can't afford them anymore.
We really can't afford all these private companies.
And look at the salaries they pay themselves. Where in God's name in this population, and you compare our province to the bigger provinces, I think that our officials are being paid a hell of a lot more in this province than they are in say, Ontario or even in BC. Like, how in the hell are we getting our politicians with a paycheck the same bracket as those people? What in God's name does that make sense in?
Well, they're being quiet about certain things, so they have to be looked after.
Well, I don't care about
that's the truth, eh?
You know, that's what's wrong with this province, is we are not following like the amount of how people get paid and the way that things should work compared to a population versus what a salary is worth, where are they getting their figures at? I can't figure that out.
No, no one can.
Zero value on it.
Evaluation. Are they crazy or think we're all stupid?
Well, that's why it's important that the ball get rolling on something, because see, there's 4 levels of government in Canada: federal, provincial, regional, municipal. All right. So if the municipality is a child of the province and they can tell them what to do, they can kill a municipality. They can dissolve it. We've seen it. Spring Hill, Bardsboro, they're all closed down. The reason why is if we form a regional government here, the province doesn't get to dictate to the regional government. If Cape Breton Island just formed Cape Breton regional government, then the municipalities would still be there, but we'd answer to a regional government. Well, the provincial government then is forced to the table with the regional government to negotiate how we're going to operate our region. And at that point, we can say, you either give us our money in equalization or we're taxing Nova Scotia Power. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing the province can do with that.
So Charles and Russ, Kim Shepherd wants to know, what can everyday citizens do to help you guys? How can we all make a difference for you guys?
Well, Kim's an awesome lady, and there's one that she should have, I think Kim will do well in politics because
she cares.
I think she just cares, and it's in her heart. And there's a few out there like that, Jeff McNeil, and there's a bunch of them out there like that just really have it right here in their heart. They're not running for any other purpose, and Kim is one of them.
Yep.
You know what? When we call to the people to call on Brian Comer or call on Mike Kellaway or whatever, those people who put the pressure on them, that's the way to help, because we really have to put these politicians who we elect in the center, and they are the go-between, and we have to keep them there. We have to hold them accountable, and they have to be able to stand up and represent what we want, because we elect them and we pay them. So they got to stop listening to the party leaders and to the bureaucrats behind the scene, and they have to stop accepting what they're told as gospel. They have to go and investigate for themselves. And this is why people like Kim Shepherd help, because they do help to force that. And that's what we all need to do. We all need to be there to support each other. The NSEF is not leading the charge on separation or regional government or autonomy. We are not doing that. We've been fighting this for 25 years. And Mark McNeil and I disagree on that one point. He thinks everyone from the NSEF should go fight his fight. But we don't agree on that. We've been fighting this for 25 years, and we know that it's factual evidence. It's there. We can get at it now. We need everyone to do that, but we also need what I'd like to see. I think if you asked every member of the NSEF what they thought about separating, we'd all agree. We're all for it. All for it. Everyone we talk to, all of our followers are for it. But we need to see some headway. We need to see some headway being made in that front. We need to see plebiscites, town halls. We need to see this stuff happening, because we can't wait another 4 years till the next provincial election, and that plebiscite has to be on a provincial election. So,
if you go back a little bit, John Wally, when he was the chief economics officer, he did his own report at the time, and he put in a report which recommended that the council study alternate forms of political arrangements with the country and with the province. That could have entailed seeking provincial status or territorial status or whatever. I was at the council meeting, and that was immediately when Professor Urbaniak asked to speak. Morgan was sitting in the chair, and he spoke for about 10, 15 minutes, and he poo-pooed that whole suggestion and recommendation of John Wally. Immediately, when he stopped speaking, a councillor stood up and moved to reject it. It was immediately seconded by my councillor out here. The question was called, and it was thrown to the ash pile without even a consideration. I called my councillor at the time he came up on a Saturday morning, and I was talking to him, and I said, "Look, you guys screwed up." I said, "You can't see any of the political aspect and power that you had in that recommendation to send the message to our overlords in Halifax. You threw it out the window. Why? They're playing politics. These people were all Liberal Party connected."
That's party politics at its best here in this province. Doing something at a municipal level to take away from something that could get better here, because it's important to keep us poor. That's all that was a counselor, and we know that there are deep-rooted counselors in our that are deep party roots, and that shouldn't be. There are no place for party politics in municipal council. There's no place for it.
It's hard to
municipal as a stepping stone to get into the provincial, to get into the federal. So they start here knowing that their path is going to lead them to greener pastures and to pad their pockets. It's not about the people, it's about the profit.
Okay, so let me just add to that, because you know what, Janet, here's a problem there. We did a study and we looked at municipalities from one end of Canada to this end, from BC right out to this end. Municipalities are the exact same size as CBRM. We are 100,000 people in CBRM. We looked at Coquitlam, BC. We looked at Thunder Bay, Ontario, Kingston, Ontario, St. John's. We looked right across the province, right across the country. Municipalities with 100,000 people operate on municipal budgets of around $380 to $525 million a year. The CBRM budget for the same amount of people with much more need operates on $150 million a year.
Yeah.
The federal government is topping us up to the national average. They're sending us $243 million a year in that equalization so that we would have a budget like other municipalities the same size. It's not rocket science. You can't get in this hand so much money to go, if your mother gave you $10 to go to the store and buy milk, and then that's it. You went and you bought, $9.50 in candy and come home with 50 cents of milk and a thimble, she's going to be mad at you, because you know what, that's wrong. The federal government is sending us money to live equally with the rest of Canada at a Canadian standard, and our provincial government is taking it. And they won't show us where they're spending it. They won't show us on paper. They stick it into general revenue so that there's no tracing it. And at the end of the year, when they have their surpluses and their balanced budgets, they use it for luxury items and in Halifax.
Yes.
So if our municipality at that level can't do anything about it or refuses to do anything about it, then that's a serious issue. We're seeing some new councillors coming, some younger blood coming and everything else. But I'm telling you, I know some of them there. The party lines are so deep rooted there that is it going to get better? Is it going to stay the same? Is it going to get worse? You can't be making decisions in politics based on a party leader or a party bureaucrat from behind the scenes.
Popularity. So whatever the popular decision is for the party, they go for that. They don't go against the party, and they don't want to be the unpopular or the sandpaper. They don't want to rub them the wrong way.
So the parties are the problem. The parties are Cape Breton's problem.
Yes, it is.
The Tories, the Liberals, they're deep rooted. They're wedged against each other, and by keeping us divided on issues, it keeps us in our situation. Exactly. Cape Breton has to come together, unite.
We need more independence.
And we need to tell the people. So, when someone like Kim Shepherd asks what she can do, this COVID thing has thrown a wrench in our plans, but we are going to be out and protesting. When the province calls an election, we're going to be in front of every MLA's office who's ignoring us, because this is our point. This is at our time to tell the public that this politician in that building and behind that door refuses to sit down with me as a constituent on this serious issue, because someone up the line is telling him to do that, or her. But that's what it's going to continue on for us. It's going to only ramp up, not get better. So that for your followers, the same thing. When the province calls an election, join us in front of those offices. Send a clear message to the media. Send a clear message to the premier, to the party leaders that we're not happy with this anymore.
I wanted to know, what about petitions? Like Brian Comer had put out a petition for instance, for that clinic that was going to close. He wanted us all to sign this petition, right? And he was going to bring it into legislature first. So what about it? Does this work? Do you feel that that's worthwhile to even spend time trying to do, or?
No, it's optics. They're just spinning the wheels on optics. So if you read Charlie's letter,
I think we were manipulated there by the Liberals. I think we were manipulated to throw out that message of closing it for Mumbercat, so that he could come in and play act that he's saving the clinic.
Yes.
They had no intention of closing it, but create and manipulate the situation to favor their outcome.
100%, fellas. Yep.
Exactly. It's optics. It's all optics. It's how it looks and how it appears.
So
Brian Comer, Janet, if you remember, sorry, Marie, it's actually Marie's letter. But if you remember in there, Marie, on Brian Comer's letter, he said that he wanted us to do this and do that and do this and do that.
Oh yeah, I've got it.
And he said at the bottom there that possibly that they would go to the Auditor General to get them to do an audit on equalization. Alfie McLeod and Eddie Orrell did the same thing. Nothing happens. The Auditor General is not going to look at it unless the Premier tells them to do it. So that's a joke. That's a joke.
In 2011-12, the Liberals passed at their annual general meeting a resolution they were in opposition then, calling upon the Auditor General to do an audit. Yes. Ask them now about it. When they answer you, they don't even discuss the audit.
They got in power and then they refused to do it. Just like Frank Holden did, and just like it's all the same. It's the bureaucrats and the 1%ers up there who own the skyscrapers and the buildings in Halifax that want to see their investments grow like crazy. They're trying to concentrate the whole focus. Halifax is in the center of the wheel in this province, but guess what? The spokes that hold that center of that wheel up are weakening, and it's going to implode because Halifax on its own cannot sustain a province. They don't do anything. There's nothing that happens there. They build ships for Irving, but other than that, it's all government employment jobs. What's there? There's nothing there. No. The outlying areas are ones that do. And Cape Breton has been marginalized and monopolized upon for 200 years.
Yes,
they've taken us for our revenues on our fish and coal and our steel. And our
so upset over that. We were the heart of this whole country. Our steel, our coal, everything.
Our rails built this country, and then they were done with us. They kicked us to the curb. But guess what? We are also now a new source of revenue: equalization. That's what we become.
Now,
we're not
I want to ask
source of revenue.
Can I ask about the taxes here? Yeah. Does that have to do with why we are owed equalization? Like, how does the taxes come in with equalization?
Because we're taxed. We just talked about our municipality for 100,000 people, only collects $138 million a year in property taxes. Our municipal budget should be around $300-400 million a year. There's a major shortfall. So that is in our transfer to help us get on our feet. If we get on our feet down here, then the equalization stops flowing to this province, right? That can't happen. So we pay extremely high taxes and property and commercial tax rates. There are businesses who leave here because they can't afford the commercial taxes.
I heard about Costco was supposed to be coming here to member, and it's all gone because
you'll hear all kinds of reasons why they're not coming here, but they'll never tell you the truth. The truth is the taxation is too high. We had a young fellow, I'll tell you a quick little story. Had a young fellow out in Glace Bay. His grandmother died, left his mother and father her house. They were in an apartment. They moved into her house. No problem. The piece of land next door was left to him to build a house for himself, her grandson. So he builds a house. Him and his pregnant girlfriend, they build a little house, and they all straightened away in their little house. His mother and father live next door. They're all set. They get their tax bill, over $8,000. He only worked at a part-time job at minimum wage. He was upset, crying, everything. He had to sell the house. He couldn't live next to it. So we wanted him to go on camera, wouldn't do it. He was very upset about the situation. If that's the case here, and equalization is provided so that we're not overtaxed. Charlie, what does the actual 36.2 say about that? So that we're not overtaxed. It says without excessive taxation. Am I right, Charlie?
Yeah, it's to be reasonably comparable levels of taxation.
Right. So it
So-
says that's why the equalization is provided. Where is the challenge in our courts on this? Why isn't this before a judge? Why is that provincial government allowed to get away with that? They get that money so that we're not overtaxed. And then they put this tax cap on it and scare us all into oblivion that we can't sell or do anything with our homes. And then what does that do to senior citizens? I know senior citizens live in 5-bedroom homes down the pier, great big friggin' 2.5-story homes. They're all alone in there. They can't afford to sell it. If they sell it, they can't afford the taxes in a new home.
This issue is going to stay like this because the legal avenue has been closed out by McDonald's decision in the appeal court. And as just a point of interest, his conclusion that he put in his decision that the only parties that can deal with Section 36 are the two parties, which is the federal and the provincial government, which were privy to what is represented by Section 36. Now, we were checking, and we found a 1950 Supreme Court of Canada decision ruled in that decision that the Constitution does not belong to Parliament or to any of the legislatures. That decision is a 1950. McDonald's decision overruled the Supreme Court decision. You don't hear anything about the legal fraternity taking issue with this. What's going on? Is the Supreme Court supreme or is it not? And on this decision, McDonald's, and he didn't have to state that anyway, but I think he went into an overkill on it. So they wanted it to be sure that this particular issue, the data, which is all the government's data, they can't defend it in a trial situation. So he had to prevent it from getting to a trial situation no matter what he said. Now, the federal government takes no issue with the fact that the Supreme Court was overruled. You don't hear anything from the legal fraternity down here mentioning anything on that either.
Well,
Do you guys both understand that? Do you understand what he said? Yeah. So when John Morgan went to court, Justice McDonald said this is between the two levels of government, federal and provincial, who were privy to Section 36. That there was a prior court ruling from the Supreme Court that said that the Constitution of Canada belongs to the people, not the Parliament or the legislatures. Well, Justice McDonald just overruled a previous Supreme Court decision to keep the CBRM from being in front of a judge telling them what this province is doing to us.
So why couldn't we find a lawyer who will take that case precedence and fight that case law in defending us? They have a decision. It's called case law. And when you've got a case that represents how things should be done, and it's already been put to the legislature or it's been put into the court, and there's documents from a judge, a Supreme Court judge, stating why these things should be done, why is it not being followed here? We need someone to make sure that that decision, that case law is being compared and brought up in court.
Yeah, well, we're dealing with Rocco Galati in Toronto, but see, he's too busy with other cases and he's not taking this case on. So you know what? Maybe we ask the public to reach out to him. Maybe if he gets 2,000 and 3,000 emails from upset Cape Bretoners, maybe he'll look into it. I don't know what to do.
Give us his email, and we'll put it at the bottom.
What's his name?
Posting. Rocco Galati.
ROCKO?
No, ROCCO.
ROCCO.
GALATI. Rocco Galati. He's Canada's foremost constitutional lawyer. He's the one that takes the federal government to court all the time.
Yes, I've heard of him, and I've been trying to look up on him a little bit here and there. But yes, I think that's kind of something where everybody can feel like, look, we're doing something proactive here.
Yep.
we need to write this person. This is our goal this month. Everybody needs to do it.
Rocco Galati. So we got his name on here, but how do they reach out? Is there an email? Like, is there a business? Like,
well, he runs a place called the Constitutional Rights Center in Toronto, and it's a nonprofit law office with some volunteer lawyers, and they take on cases where people are wrongdoings with the federal government. Now, every time we talk to the federal government, they tell us that we're right. that we are being shortchanged.
Yeah.
They tell us that right there. But they tell us that our fight. They tell us that our fight is with the province, because guess what? We're a municipality. We're not allowed to fight the province.
You know, when you're reading on the federal site as well, it says this equalization money, it's strictly a federal program. The provinces have no say in it, nothing to do with it. They're just a recipient. But then when they hand the money over, like Pontius Pilate, they wash their hands.
Yes.
And they
allow Halifax to do what they want.
Why is that? Why does that happen? Party politics.
Yes.
Is why it happens.
It's corruption.
Keeping all their friends happy.
You think the big businesses up there in Halifax who are deep-rooted in the Liberal parties aren't making phone calls to Ottawa? They're not making phone calls to the province about just shut those people up down there.
You better not be giving them
a little bit of a bone. Yeah, exactly. We know what's going on.
They've got a lot to lose. I mean, hey, they do. They've got a lot to lose. Our money, the stuff that they've been living on and getting higher and higher on the hog with.
Well, we get poorer and poorer.
An election is coming up shortly, and it's the public here it's in their hands. They have to question their politicians that they're going to elect. If you're going to vote for people that are going to do the same thing again and again and again, we're going nowhere.
No.
It's up to them to challenge these politicians. Like Mike Kellaway, he's at a federal level. He should be ensuring that his constituents are getting their constitutional protection as supposedly guaranteed by an enshrined law, and it's supposed to be the supreme law of the country. But he won't even advocate on behalf of his residents.
And it's up to each and every one of us to remind him that he did not fulfill his campaign promises about getting us to the table with the government to talk about this. That's a huge issue. You can't get elected on a lie. He stood on stage and he said he was going to do it, and now he's not doing it because they're telling him you can't. We're using the federal and the provincial government's numbers. They're not our numbers. They're their numbers. Yeah. The Constitution, which is the supreme law of Canada, says one thing. We're being treated a different way. It's all there. It's blatant. It's there. It's in their face. They don't get to continue to ignore this issue. And especially with our members of parliament, they're ones at the federal level. Like Charlie just said, this is a federal program. You have to remember, every Canadian pays into equalization from Vancouver to Newfoundland. It's a federal program from federal taxes.
Yes, this isn't from other the have provinces. Like in some cases, they do have to pay into something. This is our equalization, which actually comes from our government, not from nobody can be going around saying, Cape Breton's trying to get our money from Alberta. No, we're not. We're trying to get it from the federal government who owes us that. Right. And that's that.
The federal government has a right to ensure that their Canadians live at a standard. And we're not.
If equalization federally was stopped today, but no difference in the level of taxation changed, Alberta would still pay the same amount to Ottawa. Right. That's the thing. It takes nothing from the provincial coffers. No. And they're still the highest.
People get confused about that, guys, a lot.
They're still the highest earning province and so on. But they're the lowest taxed province in the country. Yeah. So that's, when you're dealing with tax capacity, they have a great tax capacity to dig into, but they don't. That's why they're not a recipient. And then they're the highest incomers in the country still, even though the oil patch is turned down.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe we should start a GoFundMe so that we can open up across all the people of Canada, because we know that we've got a lot of Cape Bretoners that aren't just living here. They're living all over the country because of the shape of Cape Breton. Not a whole lot of us can afford to stay living here. And because of that reason alone, I feel that a GoFundMe campaign to help with this, important issue might actually be something that could come to fruition, because so many people care about it, so many people know about it, and if we start compiling our own little bit and being able to fight them and hire someone who's capable and not scared to take them to court and will make them, be accountable, I think we could actually have a leg to stand on and really
maybe legally. If we legally get a GoFundMe.
Should be.
Let me explain something to you. So we did recently talk to a very big class action lawyer in Halifax who's from Cape Breton. And he looked into it and he told us everything we're saying is right. They're discriminating against us, everything else. He didn't think at that time he could get around the prior Court of Appeal decision when John Morgan went. He didn't think he'd get around it. When
Right.
we provided him with the prior law that threw what Justice McDonald said out the window,
Yep.
he didn't want to touch it. So that tells us right there. Okay, well, if Justice McDonald ignored prior law in Canada and made this ruling, and like Charles said, we're the people from academia here that are in the law that didn't challenge it at the time.
Yes, what happened there?
Yeah, we're not lawyers. We found it in 2 seconds. So, why aren't they challenging it? They're not going to challenge it. They're not allowed to challenge it. This cannot get before a judge. If it gets before a judge, there will be lawsuits against both levels of government like you've never seen. They
Constitutional.
they want this done and gone. But guess what? Cape Bretoners are just waking up.
Yeah.
We've been asleep for 40 or 50 years. We are just waking up. We're sick of watching our kids and our grandkids and our nephews and nieces having to leave here because there's no life here. We're sick of the high taxes. We're sick of the 20s and 25% unemployment rates. We're sick of the taxes to the roof. We're sick of having the highest poverty in Canada.
The lowest minimum wage. Like, look at this. Look at the economy we're living in.
Honest to God.
12, 13,
tax was lowest.
$100 a month, and you're $12 an hour. Oh,
Yep.
God. How many people do I need to live in the house? 6 people working for $12 an hour so I can pay my $2,000 a month rent. Are you freaking crazy?
I know.
And
What happened here in this last year has been crazy for rents going up and stuff. And I don't know what are we to do about these things, right? Like, I mean,
And while we're on the equalization too, don't allow the politicians like Calmer to introduce other portfolios like we've got to spend it on healthcare, et cetera, and so on. Healthcare.
There's different transfer payments for that. I mean, this equalization is supposed to be topping us up at most.
But the funding into the healthcare has been federally, particularly, has been trending downward for years. What they send into the provinces is around 23%. The original setup was a 50-50 cost sharing arrangement. So they've been trending out of that particular arrangement. Then, so you got, as I said to Brian Comer, in 2014, when Harper was in, he cut the 6% escalator to 3% or GDP growth, whichever is greater. He also put it on a per capita basis. We have an older population. We pay more. The Nova Scotia Health Coalition, in terms of those changes, by the end of that health accord, was going to cost Nova Scotia a shortfall of $993 million.
Oh my God.
So we're talking 40-some billion dollars across the country with that cut that Harper made in 2014. Now that's going to impact every subsequent health accord into the future. And that's why, and then you hit a pandemic. If we were trying to prepare to be unprepared, we're on the right path.
There we go, right? It's like a planned decline.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly.
Fail to plan is a plan to fail,
Yes,
so that's what they've done here. They've left us in this predicament, and they knew where the chips laid, that they would fall and nobody would be benefiting from it but them.
But there's a charity out in Calgary called the Canadian Constitution Foundation. It's also registered in the United States as a charity. It was raising funds to challenge and kill the Canada Health Act out in BC. A so-called doctor, in quotations, Brian Day, was spearheading it. He is quoted in the National Post as finding it rather strange that in country we have a healthcare system that treats poor people the same as they do wealthy people. That's his attitude that he takes to his patients. And
how would that work for us?
I wrote the revenue minister and brought this to the attention and also to Kellaway, asking why is this charity allowed to stay in operation when it's actually officially working to kill an official government policy? They changed the regulations for charities in 2018, which makes it a gray area now.
Oh.
This is going to be allowed. So I wrote to Kellaway and I asked them, did the government change the regulations to actually have to not deal with a charity that was breaking the law formally, so that to change the law that what they were doing formally now is legal? He wouldn't answer me.
Oh, sounded complicated. Good God, he's scared to answer yes or no either way because he could be found, something might be not right with what he's saying to you because he has no idea.
Right.
What's making the difference, though, is because we know mainstream media, they've been very good to the government to keep this situation here in Cape Breton under wraps. They've been very, very good. I will say that. Like CBC down here, and you can't get the tough questions out. They won't even hit them. Cape Breton Post has been amazing to the NSCF. They have put everything
I love Mary Campbell.
And Mary Campbell is phenomenal. But it's shows like what you're doing and the Cape Breton Situation podcast and all of those shows that are getting the word out to the people is the one thing, because alternative media is the only way we're going to get this fixed.
We're not
the only way.
We do not censor anyone. You are free to say whatever you want on this show as long as it's factual, documented, and you've got statistics to prove it. Yep. We're behind you.
Mm-hmm. You have to worry about the NSCS because it's all government numbers.
Exactly. It's like simple. Exactly. So Rocco Galati, I guess we want to get an email out for him. Get people on that. Start writing him. Let him know we're here in Cape Breton. Calling out to you, buddy. We need you.
Yeah.
We should be number one on your priority list, and I guarantee you, Rocco, you'll go down in history by.
And if we all have to start collecting some money because they do work nonprofit, but if we have to cover the costs of maybe flying down here and the meetings and stuff, maybe we all start collecting money on the island to get him here and
can we do a GoFundMe? Is that a possibility?
That's something we could ask Rocco, but he'd have to do it. I can provide you with his email, and I'll send you a link about how to get a hold of the Constitutional Rights Center. And maybe if we,
Russ, I could set up the GoFundMe and have you and Charles be the holders of it. Like, we don't need Rocco for that. You could use the money to pay Rocco. Maybe that would, have that part help with the part for Rocco. That way we won't have to inundate him with that. We could just say, hey, we got a basket of money here for you. When can you start working? We need you yesterday.
Why not also apply to become a registered charity?
Definitely. Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be smart?
I think Wayne O'Toole, you can help them with that. You've got a lot of knowledge of different things, and maybe Nigel as well. We got a lot of good viewers on here today that should certainly be able to get you fellas into getting that money funding with GoFundMe and having them direct you on to getting to be certified charity, because you certainly are. The work that you've put in and all the information you've gathered, it's just a huge resource, and everybody needs to know more about what Nova Scotia Equalization for Fairness does, and we have to get this all shared. Because if we don't, like people like Marie and me, we're just, woken up in the last year. How many other people are asleep that need to be awoke? We need to help wake them.
I worry about people like Nigel Kearns that they're going to burn out and it's going to consume them, because someone like him has been watching this for a lot longer than the rest of us. And then I talked to him the other day just briefly, and I can tell in his voice that he's a little defeated by it all. And I get like that too, because we know what's going on, we know what's wrong, but it doesn't seem that we can get anywhere past the politicians who are managing this. And we have to get to that point. We have to tell the politicians that they need to do what we want to see, not what their party leader or some big businessman in Halifax wants to see. It's what Cape Bretoners want to see. And I hope they can hang in there. I hope people like Nigel Kearns can hang in there, because he is he's a rock.
Yes, and so is Wayne O'Toole. And in all honesty,
so is Wayne.
They're using money against us with no money. So we need to come up with money, and we need to fight money with money. And if we can get enough money to this GoFundMe to help basically form a plan of attack to take these guys down, it can be done. Aaron Brockovich took out a whole friggin' town. Why can't we? We've got, let's think big, and let's make sure that they know that we're not backing down off of them, because we need this money.
Every Cape Bretoner gave what? $2. I'm thinking $5, but even $2. What if every Cape Bretoner gave $2 to a GoFundMe to NSEF to go get us that lawyer who we know will want this case. He just needs to have us. Yeah,
$250,000 there. Yep, you're right.
we need it.
All right. So I'm going to start working this week. We'll be in contact with you. I'm going to work with Wayne O'Toole, see if we can get you guys set up with the GoFundMe account. Start in the process, start publicizing the crap out of that, so that we can start having money being built here to fight the battle of money versus money, the poor versus the. Right. So we've got a plan, guys. It's a different approach, and we're going to give it a whirl. So we're at the end of our time. You guys are so definitely invited back onto the show at any time for updates and whatever else. It was great having you on the show today. Great information and a lot of great points from our viewers. Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, just to thank you both for your time, and we appreciate it, and we'd love to come on anytime. And anytime you ever want us back, just give us a call. We're there.
Great. Yeah, we thank you guys. Thank you guys for bringing it to all of our attention. Yeah. All right,
guys. Thanks, Charles.
Have a great Sunday.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Nigel's going to call me. Go find the registered charity. All right, guys. We'll be in touch.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Share this post.